Listen, you're in a privileged position to learn a thing or two. Keep your mouth shut and your eyes open.
I told the truth. It's not about true and proof. It's not the point whether you told the truth or not. Hello? I told the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Please, forgive me.
What's going on, everybody? When I was presented with the question of what is the best game of 2014, I had a real dilemma on my hands. You see, I've only played one title this year, so how am I to form an opinion on games I haven't even played and try to compare them to the one game I have? I don't think I can do that. So I figured instead, I would kind of give you some reasons why I think Destiny is a great candidate for the best game in 2014. You see, as I was analyzing Destiny, I started to notice something. A common pattern, if you will. Something that I normally wouldn't get into. Something I normally wouldn't pay any attention to. And I can guarantee you, most of you Destiny players out there that are listening to this right now, you're not going to realize these things either. Now, before we get into all that, there's one thing that no one can deny. Destiny is a beautiful game. Love it or hate it, it is stunning. There is tons and tons of things embedded in this game visually that are just mind-blowing. And if you haven't had a chance to experience it, I highly recommend you take a look at some videos, or if you're at a buddy's house that has it, jump on there and roam around, free roam for a little while. Just do some patrols and kind of check out the views and the different things that they've tucked into the maps, because the detail is just amazing. But we're not going to use those things like that. We're not even going to use the MMO aspect. We're not going to use the multiplayer aspect. We're not going to compare any of those things. We are going to completely ignore what most people are going to look at when they're trying to figure out what the best game of 2014 is. We are going to look at the subconscious effect of the game. You see, there's something in this game that I think can help us all. And as I say all, I mean men. And trust me, ladies, this isn't a one-sided discussion. This benefits you as well. As soon as you fire Destiny up, the very first thing you do is create your character's face. You spend a lot of time making sure you have the face just right to where it's appealing to you, where it's something that you want to show off, something you want to be seen wearing, if you will. You also, once you get in the game, you start to pick up drops. All of these drops give you armor. And mainly your goal is to look for armor upgrades, but anybody that's played the game, tell me you haven't had an instance where you picked up a piece of armor and it was just right out ugly when you put it on. And the first thought that came to your mind was, man, I wish I could find another drop so I could get a better looking piece of armor. Tell me you didn't think that. And not to mention, the drops I was speaking of, how many of you sounded like giddy little schoolgirls when those drops pop out? And you probably still do. I imagine it sounded something like this.
Oh my gosh, I got a purple drop!
The character customization in and of itself has basically helped us men get in touch with our fashion side. They've helped us notice and pay more attention to the clothing and the wild apparel that we use while playing Destiny. Because think about it, the things you're putting on in Destiny are not something you wear around in life, but you can damn well bet you want to look good to the other people that are walking around in that tower. Don't you? I know you do. My favorite fashion accessories are the capes for the hunters, the little hip tunics for the titans, and you gotta love the armbands, the bicep armbands for the warlocks. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, these really set it off. They really make your character look really pretty, don't they? Did I just say pretty? Anyway, after you get all those fancy little additions done to your character, you can step out on the dance floor, have a little dance, and show off to anybody in the tower. You can wave, you can point, you can do all that stuff. How awesome is that? The social level that this game has brought to our lives is unbelievable. And if that's all not enough, you can kick back and enjoy the view. Now, after listening to all of that, all those little things, how many of you men would buy a game that was based on all those things? You wouldn't, would you? But if you put a gun in your hands and let you run around and shoot crazy monsters that drop from the sky, you'll dress up and change every little aspect of your character all day long, now won't you? Destiny is a great candidate for the best game of 2014 because it helps all us men get in touch with our feminine side. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed this commentary today. We'll see you on the next one.
The best game of 2014 is on the surface an easy question to answer. You pick a game you like the most and bam, you're done. The more I thought about the question though, the more I found it a little harder to answer, seeing as there are so many variables to consider. My best game of 2014 is The Last of Us Remastered Edition. I'll talk about the game in more detail in a bit, but for now I want to give an insight into why I gave that game the title. In 2014 to date, there have been no fewer than 164 games released for the Xbox 360, the One, the PS3 and the PS4. Thinking about what makes a game the best, let's consider units sold. If I were to state the best game of 2014 was Minecraft, you would all think I was crazy. It did get released on the current gen consoles this year, and in terms of units moved or copies sold, it has sold more units on the console than it ever did on the PC. It has sold a staggering 54 million copies to date. Destiny has a huge following, has sold really well, looks really great, but something you might not know about me is that I don't really do the futuristic games. It sounds silly to say they're unrealistic, but I'm not a sci-fi fan, I'm not a Doctor Who nut or someone who is going to turn up at Comic-Con conventions dressed as Spock. For me, Destiny is like Halo, is like Titanfall, is like blah 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 blah. So what about a game that is good gameplay, is customizable, has a long storyline and makes you laugh, even if it is ball-achingly painful? Sniper Elite 3 I really enjoyed. It ticked many boxes. I laughed, I customized, I stealthed, I ran and gunned, I spent hours trying to get every bone-shattering, liver-splitting, ball-piercing, skull-destroying kill cam I could. Then I stopped playing. I haven't finished it, but it is still worth a strong mention. Now I want to talk a bit more in detail about the why regarding my choice. Emotional attachment in games. Watch Dogs ticked the emotional attachment boxes for me, which goes a long way towards a game meaning a lot to me. In the story, Aiden Pierce, the hero, has a niece that dies in a car crash that is caused by bad people chasing him. It was a devastating storyline and one that I relished playing out as the story unfolded, playing to exact that revenge on the people that hurt my family. You cannot play with your buddies unless you're on a current gen console. Watch Dogs dropped the ball with that one for me. Heavy Rain was a game that I specifically bought a PS3 for. It was released in February 2010, and I'm only including it here because of its context. Playing as the main character, you lead a happy family life, until one day at the shopping mall, a stupid red balloon starts a chain of events that sees one of your two sons killed in a car accident, and leaves you in the rest of the game, struggling with the grief, depression, and pain of that loss, while sadly being emotionally distant with your remaining son. When devs make a game so memorable that it touches you more than just a gaming experience, it helps to really define a game for me, and it allows me to connect with the game and the characters with a deep sense of emotional attachment to them and what is happening in the story. In The Last of Us, Sarah is a young girl. It is just her and her father. She gives her dad a watch that she saved up everything for as they sit on the couch ribbing each other lovingly. The zombie apocalypse strikes, and now her father is looking out for her, concentrating solely on keeping her safe. The helpless, injured child is in his arms. She's the most important thing to him in the world, but as the game's prologue unfolds, she meets an untimely and very sad death. This really resonates with me, being a father myself to my young daughter. I want with every fiber in my being to kill everything in my path after that. Another girl, Ellie, enters the storyline and becomes a sort of surrogate. I found myself rushing to protect her more than anything, and whenever you see the broken wristwatch that he's wearing in the game on his wrist, it makes me appreciate what I have in my real life all the more. Good games pass the time for me. Great games become an escape for me. I live the characters' lives temporarily. The Last of Us Remastered also ticks all the boxes technically. Combined with truly amazing 1080p 60 frames a second graphics, this game actually makes me sit back and say wow. The current gen allows you to lock the frame rate at 30 FPS if you want, but when you consider FPS games run as close as 60 frames per second as possible, the feel that they were going for doubling the frame rate is one of clarity and crisp immersement in the action, even if the game is actually largely stealthy. The attention to detail is amazing. The sprites, the lighting, the interactive world, and its people continually impress. The combat mechanic is excellent, combining items in the menus, crafting better weapons, even the multiplayer action is smooth and seamless. It gained the IGN title of Best Game of 2013 for a good reason, and this year it has reclaimed that crown with its re-release. It scores an amazing 5 out of 5, 8.8 out of 10 from the gamers, and 95% from the critics. It has sold over 8 million copies. The game is about humans, it's about relationships, it's about us. It is a masterpiece.